Have you ever wondered what it takes to lead a nation through its darkest hours? Not just one, but two of the greatest crises in its history. Today, we're diving into the extraordinary life of a man who did just that, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. His story isn't just about politics. It's a powerful lesson in resilience, leadership, and unwavering optimism in the face of overwhelming odds. From a life of privilege to becoming a champion for the common person, FDR's journey is one of the most compelling in American history. Born in 1882 into a wealthy New York family, young Franklin seemed destined for a comfortable, predictable life. He was educated at elite institutions like Groton and Harvard, and it was expected he'd follow a path into law or business. But FDR had other plans. Inspired by his fifth cousin, President Theodore Roosevelt, he felt a magnetic pull toward public service. He had a natural charm, an infectious smile, and an ability to connect with people from all walks of life. This charisma served him well when he entered New York state politics, and he quickly made a name for himself as a rising star in the Democratic Party. In 1905, he married Eleanor Roosevelt, his distant cousin, and a woman who would become one of the most influential first ladies in history. Their partnership was complex, but her intelligence, social conscience, and tireless work would prove indispensable to his career and his presidency. By 1920, FDR's political trajectory was soaring. He had served as Assistant Secretary of the Navy and was the Democratic nominee for Vice President. The future looked limitless. Then, in the summer of 1921, disaster struck. At the age of 39, Roosevelt was diagnosed with polio. The disease left him paralyzed from the waist down. In an instant, the energetic, athletic politician was confined to a wheelchair. For many, this would have been the end of a public career. The physical pain was immense, and the emotional toll was even greater. But this is where the story of Franklin Roosevelt truly begins. He refused to let his disability define him or end his ambition. Instead of surrendering to despair, he embarked on a grueling, years-long journey of rehabilitation. This personal battle fundamentally changed him. It gave him a deeper empathy for suffering and a first-hand understanding of struggle. He learned patience, perseverance, and an iron will that would later define his leadership. While he carefully managed his public image, rarely allowing himself to be photographed in his wheelchair, his inner strength grew exponentially. He had faced his own personal abyss and emerged, not broken, but stronger. This profound transformation from a privileged aristocrat into a man who understood hardship would be the key to his connection with the American people. By 1928, Roosevelt made a stunning political comeback, winning the governorship of New York. Then, in 1932, he set his sights on the presidency. America was in the grips of its worst economic crisis ever, the Great Depression. 1/4 of the workforce was unemployed. Banks were failing, families were losing their homes, and a sense of hopelessness blanketed the nation. The country was desperate for a leader, for a glimmer of hope. Roosevelt's campaign was a whirlwind of energy and optimism. He promised a new deal for the American people. In his first inaugural address, he delivered one of the most famous lines in American history. "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." These words were more than just a catchy phrase. They were a declaration of war against the paralysis of despair that had gripped the nation. He was telling Americans that their spirit was stronger than their circumstances. In his first 100 days in office, FDR launched an unprecedented flurry of legislation aimed at relief, recovery, and reform. He declared a bank holiday to stop the panic, created the Civilian Conservation Corps to put young men to work, and established programs to regulate the stock market and ensure bank deposits. Through his famous Fireside Chats, radio addresses delivered directly to the American people, he explained his policies in simple, reassuring terms. For the first time, many Americans felt like their president was speaking directly to them, sitting in their living rooms, sharing their concerns. He wasn't just a distant figure in Washington. He was a compassionate leader who cared. The New Deal was a massive experiment. It created Social Security, providing a safety net for the elderly and unemployed. It built dams, bridges, and schools through the Public Works Administration, modernizing America's infrastructure and creating millions of jobs. Not all of his programs were successful, and many faced fierce opposition from critics who accused him of overstepping his authority. But Roosevelt was a pragmatist. His philosophy was simple. Try something. If it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't, try something else. The key was to take action, to fight back against the Depression, and to restore faith in the American system. Just as the nation was beginning to emerge from the Great Depression, a new, even darker storm was gathering across the oceans. The rise of aggressive expansionist regimes in Germany, Italy, and Japan threatened global peace. While many Americans were hesitant to get involved in another foreign war, Roosevelt saw the danger clearly. He understood that America could not remain isolated from the growing threat of fascism. With masterful political skill, he began to prepare the nation for the inevitable conflict. He initiated the Lend-Lease program, which provided crucial military aid to Britain and other allied nations. effectively making America the arsenal of democracy. He was walking a tightrope, trying to aid the Allies without formally entering the war, all while navigating a deeply isolationist public sentiment. Then came December 7, 1941. The surprise attack on Pearl Harbor by the Japanese Empire shattered American isolationism overnight. The following day, Roosevelt addressed a joint session of Congress, declaring it a date which will live in infamy. The United States was now at war. FDR's role shifted from domestic reformer to global commander-in-chief. His leadership during World War II was decisive. He forged a powerful alliance with British Prime Minister Winston Churchill and Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin, the Big Three, to coordinate the Allied war effort. His calm, steady presence during the war years was a source of immense comfort and strength for the nation. Through his fireside chats, he kept the American people informed and unified, rallying them for the enormous sacrifices required for victory. He oversaw the mobilization of the American economy and its people on a scale never seen before, transforming the country into a military and industrial superpower. He was not just leading a country, he was leading the free world in a monumental struggle for its very survival. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected to an unprecedented 4 terms as president, a testament to the deep trust the American people had in his leadership. His final years were spent not only on winning the war, but also on planning for the peace that would follow. He was the chief architect of the United Nations, an organization he hoped would prevent future global conflicts. Tragically, he would not live to see the final victory. On April 12, 1945, just weeks before Germany's surrender, Franklin D. Roosevelt passed away. The nation was plunged into grief. The man who had guided them through the Great Depression and World War II was gone. His legacy, however, is immeasurable. He fundamentally reshaped the role of the federal government in American life and redefined the modern presidency. He proved that in times of crisis, strong, compassionate, and optimistic leadership can unite a nation and change the course of history. FDR's story is a timeless reminder of the power of human resilience. He faced personal paralysis and led his country out of economic and spiritual paralysis. He taught a generation of Americans to believe in themselves and in their future. And that, perhaps, is his greatest legacy of all. If you found this story as inspiring as we do, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. We'd love to hear your thoughts on FDR in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.